Welcome to episode 56 of the Shine and Thrive podcast. I'm so excited for this episode because it's a part two of an episode that I did last year. So that was episode 32. And it was basically the same kind of episode, embarrassing shit that happened to photographers. And that one was so popular and so many people got so many great laughs from it. So I'm like, okay, let's do it again. Let's make this episode happen again. Let me entertain you. And it's funny, as I'm saying this, those of you that know I love my angel numbers and those of you that love your angel numbers too, I'm clearly on the right path because I'm looking, it's 4:44 p.m. right now. And I was actually born at that time. So the universe is like, Sarah, yes, you are on the right path. Keep recording this episode. So this episode is a treat because there's going to be many amazing, talented photographers contributing with their amazing stories. And I thought I would pop it off with literally one of the most embarrassing things that has ever happened to me in my life, pretty much. And it has to do with a client. So I'm going to get into telling you my story first. And then for the rest of the episode, you'll get to hear from everybody else. And I'm so grateful for everyone that contributed. I don't know why I see that word like that sometimes. But yeah, you're going to definitely LOL for sure. Wherever you are, whether you're walking or driving, you're going to LOL. And if you haven't tuned into the previous episode, which is episode 32 of like the same type of vibe, embarrassing shit that happened to photographers, make sure to tune into that after this one if you want more laughs. And in that one, I also shared one of my most embarrassing stories that happened to me in Paris while photographing an elopement. So if you want to hear another thing that happened to me that was really embarrassing, definitely tune into that one. When I first started my wedding photography business back in 2011, I made just $5,000 in my business. Now, I bring in multiple six figures per year while working only 30-hour weeks serving my dream couples. I'm here to help you discover that it's so possible to have what you want when you want in your business so that you can create the life you've always dreamed of and deserve. Okay, so here I go with sharing the most embarrassing thing that has ever happened to me with a client. So to give you a bit of a backstory, Rory and I, we took a trip to Ecuador, I think it was about 6 years ago or so. And we traveled Ecuador together for some time. I think it was about 2.5 weeks. And then because he only had a limited amount of vacation time, I chose to actually stay on about 2 weeks longer by myself, because it was off season for me. I had the time in my schedule. I'm like, yep, I want to stay in hot weather for longer. So yeah, I just stayed behind like that. The only thing that was like a little like sad, not even sad, but like the timing wasn't perfect because Rory's birthday actually fell on one of the days when I was going to be there alone after him. But we're like, oh, that's okay. Like when you come back, we can celebrate your birthday. So like for us, it wasn't a big deal. But then a couple days before his birthday, I had the idea of like doing something special anyway from afar for him. And so I had this like little like hostel / Airbnb rented out for myself, and I had like my own little private room. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to do a little like nude session for Rory, and I'm going to take these photos, do some self-portraits here, and then, yeah, send them to him via an online gallery. And so he can be surprised on the day of his birthday, even from afar. So I did that. I did that little like nude shoot, sent it over to Rory. He loved it. And all was good, right? So then I think it maybe is like 4 months, 5 months, 6 months later, time passes on, and I get an email from one of my past clients. I photographed their wedding. I photographed like their family session. They're a client that, I've just really connected with, and I, document different milestones in their lives. And she was just like, hey, Sarah, just reaching out because we want to book our next like family session with you. And she's like, oh, by the way, I just want you to know that I think it's so beautiful how vulnerable you are with how you show up with your work. And I thought those portraits that you took, self-portraits you took of yourself, the black and white ones, were just so so vulnerable, and so it was so courageous of you to show up that way. And I'm like, what? I like literally froze in my seat, and I'm like, what is she talking about? Vulnerable pictures, black and white. I'm like, I don't really shoot black and white stuff. I don't really share black and white stuff on my Instagram. I mainly photograph and see things in color. But the nude shoot that I did for Rory, it just worked in black and white so much better. So I sent it to him like that. And I wrote her back saying, hey, which photos are you talking about exactly? She's like, oh, she wrote me back saying, oh, the ones of you naked. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I emailed her back. I'm like, where did you see those? How did you see those? Because I literally didn't post them obviously on Instagram or on my website or anything. And she's like, oh, like on your website. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I went on my website, went on my blog, everywhere. Like, no, nothing like leaked by accident through technology. And I'm like, can you send me the exact website link? And so she sends me a link where it's kind of like, photographers, how we use like online galleries. So I used Pixieset. So she sent me this link where it was like Pixieset / like my name, like Sara Monika Photographer, something.com. And she's like, oh, this is the link. This is where I always check out your latest work that you share with us. And I looked at it and I realized that there is like this setting that I didn't have adjusted in Pixieset, where it's like, you can have like a little homepage of all your galleries as a user, and then all your recent galleries just pop up there, and it's kind of like this homepage. And if someone just searches Pixieset / like your name of your business, they can see them. And there's like a setting in there that you can turn that on or off. So basically she thought that this was my website and this is where I shared my recent work. So she would pop on there and like see recent like wedding galleries and stuff that I would post. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I wrote her, I'm like, oh my gosh. So, by the way, she's like the coolest person ever. So because of who she is and how just her vibe is and everything about life, like I wasn't as embarrassed as if it was someone else, but I was still like, oh my gosh, like some of those shots were like definitely just for Rory. Oh my God. So I wrote her back saying, oh my God, okay, just so you know, like that's not my actual website. That's just where my client galleries live. And sometimes I have my personal galleries in there just to keep my photos organized and stuff. So that definitely wasn't like shared publicly, but like, thank you so much for letting me know. Now I know to take it down. And then I'm like, but I'm glad that somehow they inspired you. And honestly, like I could normally get embarrassed, but because it's you and I love our bond and connection, I know that you wouldn't judge me on this. And I love how you appreciated my vulnerability. I literally said that. She's like, oh my gosh, like, well, I'm glad that I discovered this and I told you so no one else sees it. So like, I hope no one else saw it, because I literally don't know. I don't know if anyone else saw it, but what I learned from that was just to turn off that little Pixieset setting to make sure that like your home page of that doesn't show galleries. So if you are in Pixieset, definitely go in and turn off that setting. So that is one of the most embarrassing things that has ever happened to me. And you know what? I'm someone that like loves this kind of stuff, because you can just look back and just laugh about it like I am right now. And also it was so entertaining telling like my friends what happened. They're like, no, that did not happen. So I live for these types of stories. So I'm kind of like in a way happy that happened. But yeah, so that is my most embarrassing story. So that's kicking off this episode. And then yeah, stay tuned for everybody else's shares. Enjoy.
Hey guys, my name is Aubrey and I am a photographer specializing in weddings and families in Chicago. My Instagram handle is Aubrey Jane Photo if you'd like to check that out. It's Aubrey with a Y, not an IE. And I have one embarrassing story to tell from my years of doing wedding photography. I'm sure there's more, but this one really stands out. I had a couple who I met over Zoom because they were living in Australia at the time and they were getting married in Chicago and they wanted me to do their photos. And so I met them that one time. It was about a year before their wedding actually was going to take place. Fast forward to the wedding day, I walk in and there's a guy at the table and I'm almost positive he's the groom. So I walk over, offer my congratulations, say, hey man, it's so good to see you again. Congratulations. I'm so excited to be here. And he's looking at me like I am a crazy person. And he's like, I'm not the groom. that's the groom. And he like points at this guy across the room. And I was absolutely mortified. I mean, this was the same wedding also where like I'm helping pin on some boutonnieres and I pricked myself in the finger so bad. I started bleeding everywhere. One of the groomsmen took off running to get me a Band-Aid. And honestly, though, the wedding turned out great. The photos were beautiful. The couple, I mean, it was seriously one of my favorite weddings, this whole big international affair. It was just so much fun, the whole wedding in general. But it started off, I was feeling pretty bad. And I mean, they handled it with a lot of grace, and you know, I'm not the most graceful person in the world, but it was hilarious. It really was. But yeah, that's my embarrassing moment. And again, if you guys want to check me out on Instagram, it's Aubrey Jane Photo. Look forward to connecting with some of you.
What's up, everyone? This is Chankona. I'm a wedding and elopement photographer. I have a street and documentary style. My handle on IG is at Chankona, and I'm sure that's super clear and easy for anyone to write out into Instagram. No, but for real, it's SACHINKHONA. So my story of some embarrassing shit that happened to me was I was shooting a wedding, and halfway through the day, you know, just after we finished the portraits, done the first look, I'm kind of going to the ceremony spot to make sure I'm all set up there, and everyone's kind of refreshing and the guests are arriving. And so I thought this would be a great time to use the washroom, because after that it's going to be family photos and all the rest of it, cocktail hour, etc. So I make my way to the washroom, you know, do my thing. And then I couldn't get out of the toilet. I was locked in with both my cameras, of course, and the ceremony kicking off in about 15 minutes. And so I didn't shit my pants because, you know, things had already happened in the toilet. I was in the right place. But essentially, I had to figure out how the heck to get out of here. And yeah, I was basically stuck in a washroom and I didn't know what the hell to do. So essentially, there was a small, very small gap at the bottom of the toilet. And if you've ever been into a men's room toilet, thankfully it was pretty clean, the floor, shall we say. And I had to put my cameras underneath that little gap. It was literally the size of my head, this gap. I don't know. It wasn't big, but I had to put my cameras through and I had to get very low in this freaking toilet and basically screech my way out or squeeze myself out of this toilet, sort myself out, clean, you know. Thankfully, none of my clothes were dirty or anything. It was the beginning of the day, so hardly anyone had used this toilet, but I made it. I got to the ceremony location in time, cameras intact, and yeah, it was one of the most stressful experiences, but I got through it and I'm here to tell the story on Sarah's podcast. So I haven't shared that with many people, but that is a true story. That is what happened. And yeah, I'm all about solving problems on other people's wedding days, but this was solving my own biggest problem and I got through it and I'm here to tell the story. So that's the embarrassing shit that happened to me. If you have anything similar or you want to connect over this, you know where to find me. I'm on Instagram. I also run a podcast called the Arc Creative Podcast. And yeah, you can check me out there too. So take care, friends. Enjoy the rest and peace and love.
Hello, my name is Dawn Charles, and I am a wedding and elopement photographer turned business educator based in Bend, Oregon. And you can find me on Instagram at dawn.charles. And my embarrassing story is that one time when I was shooting a wedding, I was pregnant with my first daughter, and I was about 8 weeks pregnant, so no one could tell yet, but just me and my second shooter knew. And we were getting ready to shoot the cake cut, and I was standing there already with my flash and everything, and out of nowhere, I think I got a whiff of the barbecue that they had had for dinner, and I just got so nauseous that in the middle of it, I literally had to just grab my second shooter and pull him over to start shooting it and run, like straight up sprint to the bathroom so that I could make it to puke in time and not do it in front of all of their guests or all over their wedding cake. So I'm glad that I was able to at least make it out of that one somewhat gracefully, and it didn't turn out as bad as it could have. But that was definitely one of my more traumatic moments during a wedding. And after that, I just lived in fear that anytime I was shooting while I was pregnant, I was just going to get sick in the middle of their ceremony, just in the middle of the aisle. But luckily that never happened. So I recovered and everything turned out okay.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dustin. I am a photographer at 1111. And this is my story of how I once caught on fire shooting a wedding. I was shooting at the old mill in Toronto, and this is probably about 10 or so years ago. And at that time, it was really, really dark in there. So they used to try to lighten the area by lighting candles on the walls. Well, I didn't notice these candles other than the ones above me. And because the space is so small, it's literally probably big enough for one person to walk at a time. Even when the bride comes down with her father or whoever walks her down the aisle, they have to go before her and kind of drag her along. It's kind of a silly thing. But what I noticed is that when everybody stood up, I was in the back kind of shooting and wanting to get in the groom and that kind of thing. But when everybody stood up for the bride, well, then I couldn't see anymore. So there was an old style pew in the back. And so I figured I'd just stand on that and kind of shoot. Well, as I'm doing that and she's kind of walking down and I'm standing there shooting, I noticed the person next to me saying, "What is that smell?" And I didn't notice it myself until a few seconds I started to feel something kind of hot. And I turn around and my shirt is on fire. So I turn and slap and get that out while everybody kind of looks around at what the smell is. And I'm sitting here with a hole in my shirt now, and I just pretend like nothing happened and just keep shooting the bride. And the thing is, if I move at all, everyone's going to notice this giant hole in my shirt. So I try to kind of stay to the back as much as I can until it's too late when I get up there and everybody starts noticing this, this giant hole. So it was a good time after when we were laughing about it and I had to wear this giant hole in my shirt all day. We did have a good time. It was a great thing to laugh about. And that's when I learned to always take 2 shirts to weddings, just in case. So you can follow me on Instagram at 1111PMD or 1111 spelled out and PMD. Hope you have a great day.
Hey everyone, my name is Becca Vieira of Becca Fay Photography. You can find me at becca.fay.photography on Instagram, and then my website and on Facebook is just Becca Fay Photography. My name is spelled a little different, so if you type it into the search bar, you'll want to type in Bekah and then Fay for my middle name there. I'm a couples and wedding photographer based in Spokane, and yeah, I'm just going to get into my embarrassing story. It's also the reason why I check my gear bag at least 14 times before I walk out the door. So yeah, I'll just get right into it. It was a late summer day, and I was getting ready to take some friends of mine engagement photos, and we had been planning this for quite some time, outfits and locations and times and the whole spiel of engagement photo prep, And so we go to the location, which is a beautiful location in Spokane Valley. And I wouldn't say it's on top of a mountain, but man, do you get mountain-esque views from the top there. It's a beautiful spot. Kind of want to keep it a little secret, But I would say a hike to the top because it's definitely a few mile hike up and down. But we start hiking all the way up to the top, and we're on top of these giant rocks overlooking the valley, and it's just incredible up there. I love it. And my couple was super awesome with the hike and everything. They even brought a change of clothes. So they were going to change their clothes once they got up there because they didn't want to sweat in their nice engagement photo outfit, But yeah, we get up to the top and we get them all posed and everything's hunky-dory, and I turn on my camera and I don't have my memory card. And I was still pretty new at the time, so shame on me. I hadn't invested in a lot of gear at the time, so I only owned one memory card. The only one I had was still in my computer. So that was pretty embarrassing for me to be like, hey, I know we just walked like 5 miles up a mountain, basically. I don't have my memory card and we can't take photos today. That was not a fun conversation to have with them for sure. But yeah, luckily they were incredibly understanding and okay with the whole situation. I was able to still snap some photos like on my phone just so they still had the memories of we did make it to the top, we did it. So that was really nice of them. And they, we rescheduled another shoot and all that good stuff. But probably one of the most embarrassing sentences I've ever had to say was, sorry, we can't take pictures even though we already made it to the top. But yeah, short and sweet little story of a little embarrassing moment of mine. And yeah, I hope you got a little giggle out of it, because I still giggle about it. It lives with me every day. And I religiously just check my gear bag before I leave, or my little side pack, But yeah, Sara, thank you so much for asking me to be a part of this. I think this is such a cool and rad idea for just making sure that we all understand that we're human and we all make mistakes, even if it's at the top of a mountain. Thank you so much for having me. Feel free to check out my Facebook and Instagram and my website, beccafayphotography.com, and all that good stuff. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have such a good day.
Attention, fellow wedding photographers and fellow wannabe wedding photographers. Tell me if this sounds like you. You're scared of missing key moments on wedding days. You feel pressured to create photos that are quote unquote Pinterest perfect and Instagram worthy. You're nervous about all the different lighting scenarios that are out of your control and you're not sure how to handle them. You're confused on how to balance creating beautiful imagery while also capturing authentic moments and emotion. And you're worried about being in people's way too often. If you're like, hells yeah, Sara, you read my mind, then I'm here all excited and bushy-tailed, yes, I had to throw in the squirrel reference, to let you know that I've created something for you that will help you become a confident wedding day storyteller in just 2 weeks. It's an online program that I created just for you called Intuitive Storytelling, and it's officially out and ready for enrollment. I want you to take a moment and imagine for a second what life would be like if you knew how to be at the right place at the right time on wedding days so you can catch those key and in-between moments. You got emails back from your clients saying, you were the best freaking decision we made for our wedding. You also knew how to confidently create strong storytelling photos that people felt emotionally connected to. And you finally felt like an actual fly on the wall, aka people don't stare into your camera all day anymore. Well, it's all possible because I consistently experience these things myself. And now I want to help you make these possibilities become your reality. Are you all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed right now too? Again, had to throw in the squirrel reference, you know me. So listen up. You can get started on learning all my tips and tricks of how I document wedding days as soon as today. You can go to saramonika.com/storytelling for all the deets and instructions on how to grab your copy of the course. You'll have lifetime access and you can go at it at your own pace, along with a private community of other like-minded photographers that are on the same journey as you are. With intuitive storytelling, you'll be able to learn how to confidently storytell like a pro on wedding days in just 2 weeks. So, what are you waiting for? Uplevel your storytelling game this wedding season so that next year you'll be watching your inbox filling up with even more inquiries. Hello, referrals from this year's clients. So again, head over to saramonica.com/storytelling and sign up now. I cannot wait to see you in there.
Hi everyone, my name is Martin Chung and I'm a wedding photographer in Nottingham in the UK, and my Instagram handle is at martinc.photography. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my most embarrassing moment, which happened a few years ago. I was photographing a wedding and it came time to take photos of the wedding ring, and we were in a church. So I asked the best man for the rings, took them off, took a few photos, and on my way back to the best man, I remember distinctly thinking to myself, whatever you do, do not drop the wedding rings. And then if almost by magic, somehow the bride's wedding ring just leapt out of my hands, rolled down the aisle and disappeared into a little grid. Well, as you can imagine, I started sweating. So I ran over, looked down the grid, couldn't see it, lifted up the grid, a little crowd gathered around me, the groom came over, the best man came over, I explained what had happened. By this point, sweat must have been pouring off me as we were all frantically searching in this little grid for the wedding ring. It was a heating grid, so there was just a pipe and loads of rubbish and dust and everything. So after what must have felt like about 10 minutes, but was probably more like a minute, a little old granny came over and went, "Is this what you're looking for?" So she saved the day, but for a minute there I had visions of 4 weddings and a funeral where we would have to borrow someone's ring. I had visions of the insurance company getting involved. I had visions of the groom taking a swing at me, which in fairness I probably would have let him, just because I think I thoroughly deserved it. It was a close call, and that is the reason nowadays I don't take photographs of wedding rings. So yeah, that's my most embarrassing moment. If you want to check out some more of my work, you can find me on at Martin C Photography. Thanks.
Hi, I am Josie of Nicole Photography, and I focus mostly on couples. Just all things couples, weddings, elopements, couple shoots, engagements, proposals, you name it. I also do a bunch of boudoir work as well. And so that's my business. My Instagram handle is at Josie Nicole Photo, and it's spelled the English way, not the French way, Josie. But anyway, my story is from kind of earlier on in my career when I was second shooting a lot more than first shooting, and or like shooting for myself. So anyway, a few years ago, it was right after I had moved from Alberta to Ontario, I met up with this photographer. She hired me for a few jobs to second shoot, and I kind of didn't know the wedding details before I got to this specific wedding. Just kind of showed up, started shooting, didn't really ask any questions, just kind of kept to myself. It was a party of like 5 or 6 guys, so there was a big group, but there was only 2 there when I arrived, and one of them was completely done up and ready to go. So I kind of immediately just made the assumption, without even thinking or asking, I made the assumption that he was the groom because he was so ready. So I asked him to go off with me, take some portraits. Sure enough, we did. Honestly, 20, 30, maybe more minutes later, we're done and back at the house. Eventually, slowly, all the guys arrived. I've been taking photos throughout this whole time, but everyone's there. And then someone comes up to me, one of the guys comes up to me and he says, "Hey, my partner said that you were going to take some portraits of me. We're leaving in 30 minutes. Maybe you want to go do that now?" And it was that moment that I realized I had taken photos of one of the groomsmen, not the groom. And I probably looked ill in that moment when he said that, but I just was kind of in my head thinking, okay, just play dumb. Like, no one needs to know. You didn't call the other guy the groom. You just keep going and pretend it was purposeful. So I went on and I took photos of the actual groom. And then when I came back, the guys were all hanging around, chatting, and there wasn't really much left to do, even for me. But there was a bit of extra time, so they were just chatting, and I was hanging out with them, and they were kind of laughing, and one of the groomsmen looks at me. He's like, so the one I took pictures of at the beginning, he's like, so you took a bunch of portraits of me. Did you want to take portraits of everyone? And I was so mortified, because it was in that moment that I realized, okay, I have to just fess up and tell everyone what happened, because I have no excuse for not taking just as many portraits of all of the guys. So I laughed at myself and made a joke and was just like, honestly, I'm really sorry. I totally thought you were the groom. That's why I took you away, and I wasn't going to say anything. They thought it was so hilarious, and I did end up taking portraits of all of them individually, just because we had extra time anyway, but it was super hilarious and super embarrassing. I could not have asked for a better group of guys to respond, because they thought it was so funny, and they weren't at all offended or upset. So it was, in the end, totally a good mistake to make, but I most definitely have learned my lesson. And yeah, very embarrassed in the moment. I'm sure it was beet red. So yeah, that's my embarrassing story, and thanks for sharing it. And again, you can find me on Instagram at Josie Nicole Photo. Bye.
Hey Sara and Shine and Thrive listeners, I'm really excited about this. I loved the last episode with all these stories, and can't wait to hear everyone else's on this episode. My name's John Mansfield. I'm a wedding portrait photographer in College Station, Texas, just outside of Houston, and I'm not really one to get super embarrassed. It doesn't really, I don't know, I don't get embarrassed around people. I'm usually just like, okay, cool, whatever, we'll move on. But these stories definitely got me embarrassed, and like, yeah. So the one that I immediately thought of was at a wedding. And this couple is very much like a kind of Southern Christian, kind of homeschool. I believe they were homeschooled, which is fine. That's cool and everything. I was homeschooled too. I can say that. It's fine. But like, just know that they're very wholesome. They're very wholesome people. That's what I'm trying to say. So bride and groom, very wholesome people. Her family, parents, siblings, all that. So this is the morning of the wedding. I just got finished taking some detail photos downstairs. I'm headed back up to the bridal suite, and knock on the door. No answer. That's cool. That happens. People, music, whatever. I open the door. It's really quiet, and I start sneaking my way through the hallway, and I see everyone gathered in the far room. They've all gathered around the bride. They're laying hands on her. They're praying. Sweet moment. I'm going to run over there, get some photos. I sneak up really quietly, get some really sweet photos. Like, these are just some of my favorite praying photos from any wedding. And then all of a sudden, there is this woman yelling, and I realize that that is coming from my phone in my pocket, totally disrupting this prayer, like this sweet moment. And I'm normally really good about silencing my phone, but this was like an hour and a half before the ceremony, and my second photographer was still on her way to the wedding. So I didn't think to silence it yet, and it's going off. I quickly turned it off and apologized. They were cool with it and everything, but I was super embarrassed, mainly because of what my ringtone was. And remember, they're pretty wholesome bunch. Okay, so if you know this movie, 1, you're awesome, and 2, you will understand why this was so loud. So my ringtone was from the movie Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and in that movie, Alison Pill plays the drummer of this band, and the band is named Sex Bob-omb, and my ringtone was the beginning of a song where she just yells, "We are Sex Bob-omb, 1, 2, 3, 4." And it was super loud, like cranked up the volume all the way, just yelling the word sex during this prayer. Very wholesome crowd. So that was super embarrassing. Second really short story was during an engagement session. This was a couple who had not booked with me yet for their wedding day. They were kind of like testing me out. They even told me in the email, like, hey, we want to hire you for engagement photos, kind of like a test run, and then we'll see if we want to hire you for the wedding. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, cool. So I show up 30 minutes early to this location, kind of scouting it out a little bit like I normally do, feeling good. I go through my normal routine, grab my camera bag, put my car keys in it, so they don't jingle, during the engagement session. And I'm like, oh, hey, I'm here so early. Why don't I jump on Instagram, do a couple Insta stories, let people know what's going on? So I put my bag back in the passenger seat. I know some of y'all are following where this is going. Close the door, go over under this tree, take a couple Insta stories, and feeling good. I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah, it's a beautiful day. Whatever. This is going to be fun. And then I go back to the car, and it is locked. And my heart just like falls into my stomach because I'm like, oh, these people haven't booked me for their wedding. They're supposed to be here in like 10 minutes. And I have no way of opening this car. Long story short, they end up arriving like right at that moment early. I tell them what happened. My wife and I, we're a one-car family, so she can't come help me. They give me a ride back to my house, which is about 10 minutes away. I go inside, get the other set of keys. They give me a ride back to the park, unlock my car, do the photo shoot, and they ended up booking me for their wedding. So it was super, super embarrassing, but they were really cool about it, obviously. But yeah, those are my embarrassing stories. I love this. I cannot wait to hear the other stories. If you want to DM me, if you're a Scott Pilgrim fan as well,
and
you can find me on Instagram.
I hope you enjoyed
Photo.
everybody's crazy stories. I know there was like a whole variety of them, which I love so much. And if you have something embarrassing that has happened to you that comes to mind, please feel free to DM me on Instagram at Sara Monika Photo. That's Sara, no H, Monika with a K, photo. And in the future, if I create a part 3 of this episode, because this is just so much fun, I love it, then I can kind of take your story and put it into a little draft. So I know that to reach out to you to get a little voice clip from you in the future. And if I get enough submissions, I can create more of these episodes. So yeah, definitely reach out to me with your embarrassing story. I would love to hear it. I would love to connect with you. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Bye. Yay! Thank you so much for hanging out with me and tuning into this episode. If you got value out of it, please feel free to message me on Instagram at Sara Monika Photo. That's Sara, no H, Monika with a K, photo, to let me know. I get so freaking energized hearing from others that what I've said has had a positive impact on their lives. Also, make sure to hit subscribe to the Shine and Thrive podcast to never miss an episode. I'm so grateful for you, and I'm sending you all the productive vibes your way so you have the best week ever.